Our civilization is far from the first in our amusement park called Earth. Before us, there lived more advanced or maybe alternatively developed beings who left us carefully hidden hints of their existence. But maybe everything is simpler and more cynical. Maybe someone wants us to think so and create skillful stuffing, fakes. We just have to take one side or the other, and the choice will depend only on ourselves. Hi friend, you're on the Curtop channel. Lost Celtic Capital. A Bronze Age site in France may represent a lost Celtic capital, archaeologists have said, who have unearthed a treasure of jewelry, weapons, and chariot parts. The find was made by experts from Juan Juarez University of Toulouse near the French commune of Gand in the Allier department, about 130 kilometers northwest of Lyon. At that time, the Allier region has significant economic value due to the navigable Ciel River and local deposits of tin for making bronze, according to scientists. Excavations revealed a fortified settlement with an area of about 30 hectares, which had a double row of ramparts and stone walls 6 meters high. Hundreds of items have been unearthed at the site, believed to have been buried around 800 BCNS as part of a religious ritual. Such an abundance is rare in French fortifications. According to experts, this is one of the richest finds of Bronze Age metal tools ever found in Europe. Archaeologists believe that artifact deposits, 3 of which were laid out in huge vases, could have been buried to form a divine offering. This is indicated by the repeatability of their location. In the middle of each side, a layer of sharp objects was found. In one case, weapons such as knives, spears, and swords, and in the other, a chisel, sickles, and the like. The artifacts are also helping researchers paint a picture of what life might have been like in this Celtic society around 2,800 years ago. Among the artifacts found there are items related to agriculture, tools for the production of textiles and ceramics, equipment for processing wood and metal, as well as swords and spearheads for warriors. Thus, the division of eras into the Bronze Age and Iron Age, narrated by modern science from the archaeologists of the 19th century, must be considered rather arbitrary. Of the 327 Bronze Age settlements known in France, only this one has the richest assortment of the deposits, only 20. In addition, only a few forts of that era were found to have any metal artifacts. The people with the highest share of Denisovans DNA. Scientists have already found several evidences that in the distant past, our ancestors interbred several times with the Denisovans, another ancient species of people. It was believed that most of the DNA of the Denisovans was preserved in the genomes of the residents of the highlands of Papua in Indonesia, but even more DNA from Denisovans ended up in the genomes of the indigenous people of the Philippines, the Negritos, an ethnic group that calls itself the Aita Magbacan. As part of this study, scientists analyzed 2.3 million genotypes from 118 ethnic groups living in the Philippines. Several rather diverse ethnic groups that live in different parts of Southeast Asia are called Negritos. More than 30 ethnic groups of Negritos are recognized in the Philippines. Filipino Negritos have recently begun to mix with other East Asians who have almost no trace of Denisovans in their DNA. As a result, the share of Denisovans' DNA also began to decrease in Negritos. If you do not take into account the East Asian kinship of the Negritos, then they have a significantly higher proportion of Denisovans genes than the indigenous Australians and Papuan. At the same time, the largest share is in the Aita Magbacan. This means that the Denisovans scattered across the islands of the Asia-Pacific region actively mixed with the arriving Australasians in different places and at different times. That is why the share of Denisovans genes differs so much among the modern inhabitants of this region. 5 oldest buildings in America. The Mexican pyramid with the most mysterious name is Uxmal, or the Pyramid of the Wizard. This is the tallest structure in Uxmal. In an old photograph from 1917, even such a high pyramid is almost completely covered with dense vegetation, only the uppermost part is visible. A modern photo from 2014 clearly shows how thoroughly this ancient pyramid was cleaned and restored. Interestingly, the topmost window no longer exists, unusual high-rise buildings in Chichen Itza, Mexico. No less interesting in the history of the building located in the city of the Snake of the Itza tribe in Mexico. The building is very well preserved. Photo from 1889. After more than 100 years, this ancient structure did not even need restoration. In modern photography from 2010, almost no changes are noticeable. This suggests that in those distant times, people with good engineering knowledge and skills in such work were engaged in the design and construction of such structures. Now this building is called the Church of La Iglesia, the most famous pyramid in Palenque, Mexico. Another mysterious pyramid in Palenque. More precisely, this object is officially called the Temple of the Inscriptions. It was in this state that it was discovered and photographed in 1890. The temple was almost completely covered with shrubs and trees. This is the very place where the most famous and discussed stone relief was discovered, depicting according to one version of the astronaut, according to the other, the god Kakamatsa. In the 2002 photo, the same temple has been completely cleaned up and partially altered. On the right is another pyramid, which in the old photograph looked like a small mound. Now let's move to Bolivia. The famous Cala Sasaya Temple, Tiwanaku, Bolivia, photo of 1892. In a modern photograph from 2006, this place looks completely different. Of the familiar details, one can only note large single blocks located around the perimeter. The building has been completely redone. Many non-original details have been added. Several fences from new stone blocks have appeared. Various objects and exhibits have been added to the central part of this remake. Gate and staircase of the Cala Sasaya Temple, Tiwanaku, Bolivia. In a little more detail, you can dwell on the main element of this complex, the gates and stairs of the temple. This is how this place looked in 1905, and this is how it looks now. Troventa, ancient living stones. You may have already heard about the so-called living stones that grow, multiply, and even move. They have a special name, trovens. Translated from Romanian, this word literally means concretion. In fact, these are sandstone nodules of various sizes found in the territory of central Romania. In the area of Wolșia, near the town of Costasi, there is a whole open-air museum where a lot of trovens are collected. This is truly a geological curiosity. These stones are spherical or oval boulders, on the body of which the same stones seem to have grown, only of a smaller size. Some boulders are anchored to the ground with a lag and are strong enough. The sizes of nodules are completely different, from those that fit in the palm of your hand to huge boulder 4.5 meters high. In the language of geologists, trovens are made of sandstone and conglomerates, but some are made of gravel. According to myth and legends, in which many believe, stones can move like living beings. This topic is actively discussed by both journalists and ordinary bloggers on the internet. Of course, there is no evidence of independent movement of stones, at least no one has provided a supporting video yet. But as far as growth is concerned, such a course of events is indeed observed. Only there is nothing mystical here. Trovens are the result of natural geological and chemical processes. These stones formed in the form of dense concretions around various seeds, even ordinary grains of sand. This process is similar to the formation of pearls around a speck that has fallen into a shell. When sowing or chipping, interlayers similar to annual tree rings were found inside the trovens, and in some of them, fossils of shellfish were found. Of course, no one has yet seen the growth of stones with their own eyes, but scientists have found that they increase by an average of 5 centimeters in 1,200 years. Sometimes, under their own weight and depending on the slope, the bulges break off and become independent new trovens ready to multiply further. Tiwanaku Underwater City. Titicaca is a high mountain lake in America. It is famous for the fact that not far from it are the remains of the ancient city whose construction is under huge question. Tiwanaku is a city located at an altitude of 4 kilometers where vegetation is very modest and the territory itself is not particularly suitable for humans. This raises the question of how and why was the city built there. Trying to answer this question, scientists offer a version of a planetary catastrophe, and this makes sense. The fact is that ruins of port facilities, remains of sea animals and plants, shells, etc. were found on the territory of the city. It is possible that this city was a port, and if so, then it arose even before the rise of the Andes Mountains. Scientists attribute the rise of these mountains to the Tertiary period. At about the same time the very asteroid that killed the dinosaurs fell. Apparently, it was thanks to the asteroid that these mountains were formed. This is the official hypothesis, but it is possible that the asteroid was not the cause of these mountains. According to another version, the ocean level dropped sharply by 4 kilometers, after which a rocky bottom came to the surface and turned into mountains. And if this version is correct, then what could have led to such a sharp decline? Only one event is the appearance of the moon. Many researchers say that the moon is an artificial object. In ancient texts, in the Zulu legends, in the books of the Gnostics, Cathars, Egyptians, and many other peoples pointed out that the moon was created and established by a certain developed race. Under the influence of the moon's gravity, the shape of the Earth began to change and acquired a pearl-shaped shape, and as a result, a redistribution of water masses over the planet occurred. The ocean left the city of Tiwanaku, and the other cities were accordingly flooded. Divers often find flooded cities. Whether you agree with this or not, write in the comments under the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!